Okay, so today we're going back to 1899
Oh, okay.
and thinking about how we get our news today. It's like
Mm-hmm.
instant, right? On our phones, online, everywhere.
Right, right.
But imagine a world where your news was shouted to you
Oh, wow.
on a street corner by a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're diving into the Newsboys Strike of 1899.
Interesting.
When those kids, those newsboys, they took on the giants of the newspaper world.
The newspaper world in 1890.
Yeah, and brought them like to a standstill.
Wow.
We've got some great sources for this deep dive.
Okay.
We've got excerpts from the You're Wrong About podcast, and we're also looking at historical accounts from books like Crying the News and Children of the City.
Oh, fantastic.
These newsboys weren't just kids selling papers. They were almost like...
It's little entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They had to buy the papers up front, manage how many they had.
Like inventory.
Yeah, their inventory, and then actually like market them
Wow.
to sell like every single one.
So like real business skills.
Yeah, they had to be good at it
I see.
to survive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us, when we think of newsboys, I think we picture, kind
Who
of,
did scruffy?
yeah, maybe even homeless.
Yeah, like orphans.
Yeah, and you're wrong about actually.
That debunks that.
Yeah, they totally do.
Okay.
A lot of them lived with their families or in special lodging houses just for newsboys,
Huh.
which is interesting because Louisa May Alcott, she actually,
Wow, really?
yeah, she visited one.
Alcott visited.
Yeah, back in 1875
Okay.
and wrote about it.
Yeah.
And you'd think it would be,
Like chaotic.
yeah, or like grim or something.
Right.
But she describes it as like surprisingly
Oh, really?
well run. Like they had these penny savings banks there,
No way.
and they gave prizes for the most frugal newsboy.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's kind of like a different picture
Yeah, it really is.
than what we imagine.
Like responsible and financially savvy.
Yeah. But then there was also kind of a darker side. The sources mention all this anxiety
About.
around girl newsies,
Oh, interesting.
like girls who were selling newspapers.
It was controversial.
It was like a big deal.
Wow.
There are quotes from police, even President Grover Cleveland at the time,
Oh my God.
saying they were worried that it would lead girls down a bad path.
Hmm.
Like it was just not acceptable for girls to be doing this kind of work.
It's like this whole other layer of
Social stuff.
yeah, social anxieties and expectations of the time.
Exactly. And it's important to like remember that as we
As we go into the strike.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So to set the scene, it all begins with
With what?
the Spanish-American War,
Ah, the war. Oh.
1898,
Mm-hmm.
which of course, war is
Good for the news business.
yeah.
Big headlines.
And this one was like a huge battle between
Between who?
Hearst and Pulitzer.
Oh, the newspaper giant.
Yes, they were spending like fortunes to outdo each other. Like crazy headlines, trying to get the most readers.
I see.
I even found some of the original front pages from back then.
Oh, cool.
It's amazing. Like before the war, the headlines were all,
What kind of boring?
yeah, stuff like Harvard's Day of Triumph or death leads to marriage in Chicago.
Not exactly gonna grab you on the street corner.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So the newsboys had to be really good at,
Selling it.
yeah.
They had to be really creative
Mhm.
to get people to buy those papers.
Right.
And then the war ends
Oh.
and public interest, it cools off.
It fizzles out,
Yeah.
but the prices stayed high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The publishers, they kept the prices they had raised during the war.
So the newsboys are...
They were buying these papers up front.
Right.
So if they didn't sell them,
They lost money.
out of their own pocket.
Oh, wow.
So we've got these frustrated newsboys, right?
Yeah.
They're under all this financial pressure, and the publishers are just like
Ignoring them.
totally oblivious. Okay, so what happens?
Well, this is where things get good.
Okay.
It starts with this tiny act of rebellion.
Like a little spark.
Yeah, in Long Island City.
Okay.
The newsboys there, they got fed up with this one distributor.
What'd he do?
He was like cheating them,
Oh, no.
giving them less than they,
Less than they deserve.
yeah, they were supposed to get, and they were done with it.
So they...
Flipped his wagon, took his papers, and basically, like, ran him out of town.
Whoa.
It was intense.
Wow.
And then word got around to the other newsboys
Yeah.
in Manhattan.
Uh.
They had this huge meeting in City Hall Park.
No kidding.
The next day, they were like, we're striking.
That's amazing.
It's incredible.
These kids...
Yeah. They understood the power of like sticking together.
They organized themselves.
They did?
And they spread the word.
Across New York City.
Wow.
Even to some neighboring states.
That's incredible.
They knew what they wanted.
And what was that?
They wanted those prices rolled back.
The prices?
From during the war.
Okay.
They even sent a whole delegation to meet with Hearst himself.
Wow, to deliver the message.
Yeah.
So what did he say?
Well, the publishers, I think they thought they could just ignore them.
Oh.
Like, just brush them off.
Did they underestimate them?
Totally.
Okay, what happened next?
They were about to learn a very, very expensive lesson.
Ooh. Tell me more.
The Newsboys Strike was about to turn the whole media world upside down.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this. So this strike, it wasn't just them,
Complaining?
yeah, complaining or like standing around with signs. They
got creative.
they were disruptive. Remember those
Those kind of boring front pages
yeah.
from before the war.
Well, during the strike, the city was covered with these colorful signs.
Drawn, right.
Yeah, and they were telling everyone to like boycott.
Boycott the big papers.
Yeah, Hearst's Journal and Pulitzer's World.
They weren't messing around.
Not at all. And it wasn't just the signs.
What else? What'd they do?
They got pretty hands-on with stopping the papers from getting delivered.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like swarming the delivery wagons, ripping up the newspapers.
No way.
They even chased away the replacement workers, the scabs.
Oh, wow.
And get this, they even chased away Hearst himself.
Wait, really?
Yeah, when he tried to buy a paper, he was scared of these kids.
That's kind of amazing, a media mogul running from teenagers.
It is, and it made the news too. A lot of the other papers were sympathetic.
To the Newsboys.
Yeah, they were reporting on the strike, how it was impacting everything.
Like how?
Advertisers were pulling out. Nobody was buying the papers.
The publishers must have been freaking out.
Oh, yeah, I found this memo sent to Pulitzer.
What'd it say?
It said, "The Newsboys Strike has grown into a menacing affair. It is proving a serious problem. Practically all the boys in New York and adjacent towns have quit selling."
Whoa. Yeah, you can, feel the panic.
Right. It shows how important these kids actually were.
To the whole system.
The whole media ecosystem, yeah, they weren't just street kids. They were the connection.
Between, the news and the people?
Exactly. And by stopping work, they stopped the flow of information.
Powerful.
And they weren't alone, the adult unions. They saw what was happening.
And they supported the kids.
They did. It was this huge show of solidarity.
Can you imagine that? Thousands of people marching.
Yeah. Newsboys, dock workers, streetcar operators, even members of the Socialist Labor Party.
All together.
Fighting for fairness.
Wow. But then things took a turn.
Oh, what happened?
It's not the happy ending you might expect.
Okay.
Remember how the publishers were ignoring the Newsboys?
Yeah.
Well, they finally started paying attention, but not in a good way.
Oh, what'd they do?
They tried to break the strike by
By doing what?
buying off the leaders.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they targeted Kid Blink. He was one of the most charismatic leaders.
I see.
And Dave Simons, another organizer.
And what did they offer?
Money. Hundreds of dollars, which back then was a lot.
Trying to divide them?
Yeah, classic tactic, right?
It happens all the time.
And it seems like it worked on some of them.
Really?
Yeah, Kid Blink showed up to a meeting all dressed up with a bunch of cash.
The other newsboys must...
They knew something was up.
Yeah.
So they put Kid Blink and Simons on trial.
Wait, what?
The Newsboys put their own leaders on trial.
For
high treason and low bribery, they called it.
Wow. That's intense.
I know. Teenagers putting their leaders on trial.
This is serious.
They were? So what happened? Did the strike end there?
Well, not quite. Kid Blink and Simons were out, but the strike kept going.
Wow, so the publishers realized they couldn't just buy their way out of this.
Exactly. They had to actually make a concession, a compromise.
So it wasn't a total win for the Newsboys.
No, but it did give them some security.
This is where the real story is different from the movie, huh?
Yeah, the Newsies movie.
Yeah, it's more dramatic in the movie.
Real life is messier, this compromise. It shows how even against powerful people,
Collective action works.
it can force them to listen.
So what was this compromise? Did Hearst and Pulitzer agree to lower the price?
Not really. They agreed to let the Newsboys return any unsold papers
Oh, okay.
for a full refund.
So, they didn't have to pay for them if they didn't sell them.
Exactly.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, before the Newsboys had all the risk, right?
Right.
They were losing money if the papers didn't sell.
Yeah.
This new deal, it gave them some protection.
They could take a chance on those, slower news days.
Right, without worrying about being stuck with a bunch of papers nobody wanted.
It's like The publishers were finally admitting
Yeah.
that they were putting too much on these kids.
They were acknowledging the burden. Yeah.
So the strike, it officially ended.
August 1st, 1899.
Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, a short strike, but it made a huge impact.
What about the Newsboys Union? Did it keep going strong?
Well, sadly, no, it continued for a bit, but it lost that energy, you know? The adults took over, and it kind of faded away.
It's like these kids, they won this amazing victory, but the traditional union structure,
Yeah.
it wasn't the right fit.
It's hard to keep a movement going, even when you win.
Yeah.
It's a whole other challenge.
But the Newsboys Strike, it means something bigger, right?
Oh, absolutely. It shows what can happen when people work together.
Even if they're just kids.
Especially if they're kids, they challenged the system. They made those in power listen.
It makes you think differently about child labor, too.
Yeah, it's not just about helpless victims.
These kids, they were smart.
They knew how to run a business. They knew how to negotiate.
Yeah.
And they fought for their rights.
They knew they deserved to be treated fairly.
And that message, it's still relevant today, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Think about the gig economy today. Those workers facing uncertain conditions, it's the same fight for fair pay, for basic protections.
So the Newsboys Strike, it's like a reminder that this fight for workers, it's never really over.
We have to keep fighting, keep pushing for better.
And it reminds us that, information, who controls it, who profits from it, that's a big deal.
It was a big deal then, and it's a big deal now.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fascinating look at the Newsboys Strike.
Yeah, it really has.
If you want to learn more about this, definitely check out the You're Wrong About podcast. They have some great episodes on it.
And those books we mentioned.
Yeah. Crying the News and Children of the City are great places to start. And hey, if you want something a little more fun.
Theatrical.
Yeah, the movie Newsies is a classic. It might even inspire you to,
Take a stand.
Yeah.